Good morning. Today I am at Thangu, and we traveled the whole day yesterday from Gangtok. We started around 10 o'clock, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and now we are headed for this place called Phalung, which I hear is very beautiful. And joining me in this trip are my friends.
So we're at the starting point of our trek, which is we're going to Phalung right now, which is a 6-hour trek. It is at an elevation of about 17,000 feet. This is right now we are at Thangu. This is only about 12 to 13,000 feet. We stayed overnight over here. It's pretty cold, and now we're starting off for the festival. We're going to witness the Tokochechi festival, where the Drokpas will be having prayer ceremonies and some sports and games. The highlight of this would be a yak race. So yeah, check it there.
Our journey begins in Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim, a tiny northeastern state of India. We start from Gangtok at 5,500 feet, which takes us through Mangan, Chungthang, Lachen, and finally to Thangu at 13,000 feet, where we halt for the night. Early next morning, we hire a jeep and travel to the inception point of our trek, which is a little more than halfway to Gurudongmara Lake. We get briefed on the journey ahead as we gear up to cross the huge mountain right in front of us, and the ever-diminishing oxygen level is immediately recognized by our lungs, which by now was struggling to supply oxygen in our bodies. The trek from the inception point requires us to cross a suspension bridge and walk uphill for about 2 hours, which then follows the ridge towards Langdela Pass. It was 7 in the morning when we started the trek. The chilly morning breeze was a pleasant welcome, ushering us deeper into the mystic landscape. It was like a morning walk in paradise, with beauty all around us. Far away from the hustle and bustle of city life, it was as if we set foot on a different planet. But our excitement was short-lived, as we realized we just couldn't walk as we would have at lower altitudes. Here, it was a different story.
We started our trek from the bridge there. The altitude is quite high. It's difficult to breathe. Every step is difficult to take. Now we have to cross the pass over there. We have to go down to reach the valley.
With the sun just rising over the hill above us, beams of the rising sun caught our eyes, and through a squint we could see the silhouette of herders pulling their yaks downhill. It was a magical sight. The shortness of breath and fatigue was a challenge we had to overcome if we were to reach our destination, but we were in love with the terrain. The stillness of the air and the sublimity of the mountains had us all humbled as civilization strayed away from our thoughts.
We have climbed another half an hour and it feels like heaven. We have almost reached our destination, and the place is beautiful. Our guide just told us there is a lake beneath that peak, a beautiful small lake, and hope to see more beautiful places on the way.
And beautiful places were exactly what we saw. The view was just stunning, not something one would see every day. The terrain was rugged with rocks and boulders scattered everywhere. At some places it was even precarious and risky. One fall here and that would be the end of you. trail was picturesque, like a scene from a fantasy Hollywood movie. It felt like we were on Mars, except it was much greener here.
We're not even halfway, and I'm very tired. In fact, in this group, I have the heaviest bag because I'm carrying all the camera equipments and all the tent and food, while these guys are carrying just their sleeping bags. I'm just tired, exhausted. This trek is tiring. Some of our friends have reached the top of that mountain. That's where we are headed right now, and I hope we can make it in one piece.
A very arduous trek, but a very spiritual place. Trying to march on with a smile on my face and hop in my feet. I think it's better to march on. That's the road to Burudumbar. We are almost 40 minutes from that road.
This trek is proving to be quite a challenge, and we're almost halfway I think.
After almost 2 hours of walking with oxygen-deprived body, we finally reached the Langdela Pass. Amazingly, here we were greeted by the people of Lachen, an elected headman or village chief of a traditional administrative institution known as Zumsa. He was performing a lapsol, a traditional prayer offering to the local guardian deities and demigods of the area. We were feeling ecstatic on making this far. I put a stone that I had picked up from the riverbed down below on top of the stone pile as a mark of my personal achievement.
So we've just reached Langdela. This place is called Langdela. And we've been walking for about 3 hours now. We finally reached the pass, and from here it's a downhill journey.
It's happy to be at Langdela, and we just met the people of Lachen. He's offering lapse prayers to the local guardian deity, Kangchin Gyu and Chomoyomo, the king and the queen of this place. And
the air here is quite thin, and it's very difficult to breathe. The oxygen level is very low, and even a small step seems to be a very difficult task, but we are still managing it.
From the Langdela Pass, the trail descends gradually, which takes about 45 minutes of traversing gentle hills until we reach our destination, Phalung. After a short rest at Langdela Pass, we walked downhill through gradual descent, which felt easy on our body as we soaked in the serene beauty before us like it was the last day on this planet.
Phalung in the Lasar Valley. In a while we'll be witnessing the yak race by the nomads of the area. Today is a very special day for the nomads of the area, nomads and the locals of the area. Today is the Drukpa Chechi. Today all the nomads and the locals will be offering prayers to the local deities of the area, and they will be to be followed by a yak race and other events, cultural events by the nomads. So we have just reached this place, Lashar Valley, and as you can see, it's a beautiful place, and we're lucky to be here.
Feeling a bit tired, slightly out of breath, but still the old lungs are holding on. An arduous trek, no leg cramps, made it in one piece. Maybe I calculated we are about 9,000 steps more closer to God than what we were earlier from the base camp. Yep, that's it. Good.
As we walked the final descent, we were overwhelmed by the sight before us. Regal mountain range on all three sides, encapsulating the vast pastures with only 6 small stone huts of the nomads and few stone corrals for the yaks, which served as their home for 6 months of summer.
Finally reached our destination, and very tiring. We walked for about 4 hours, and my legs are hurting, my knees are hurting, and it's very difficult to breathe around here. But nevertheless, we've reached, and we're hoping for a very interesting night. And soon we are going to pitch our tent in that, whatever that is, just to keep us safe from the elements. And this will be our campsite for tonight.
One by one we entered the stone corral, which was actually meant for the yaks, but for tonight it was ours. Few yaks watched us in disbelief as we pitched our tents in their domain. Some even tried to sneak into the corral, but we shooed them away. The yaks can sleep outside for the night.
And now it's time to pitch the tent. And okay guys, so that wraps up our tent pitching session. Did you enjoy the tent pitching session?
Yes, of course. In my years of vast experience in going for hiking and camping, this tent session was, I guess, the best. We studied the area properly. We studied from which angle the wind is blowing. So to have this safe place to stay at night, we have pitched the tent in the most scientific manner with extreme help from all the mates. That's it, yeah. Wish we'll have a good night's sleep
Yeah, and so this is a 2-man tent and that's a 4-man tent. This is like the Brokeback Mountain on steroids. That's for couples and that's for gangbangs.
After pitching our tents, we met up with the Dokpas, a local name for the nomads, and exchanged greetings and few gifts that we had brought for them from Gangtok. We were ushered into a stone hut where we were served hot butter tea and biscuits. After a long, tiring walk, the boys surely enjoyed a hot cup of tea and chatted away as we recalled our adventure we had just embarked upon. As we quietly enjoyed the tea inside the stone hut, the scene outside was beginning to progress into a festive excitement. The nomads were preparing for the day's event, as it was Tukpa Cheji, literally translated as the 4th day of 6th month of the Tibetan lunar calendar. We joined the nomads outside as they prepare for the event. The lone chapel is decorated, the yak gets a makeover, yet few wander astray, oblivious to the commotion. The nomads lent us a hand with our prayer flags, which we had brought from Gangtok. It would signify our reverence to the guardian deities as we pay our respect for letting us enter into their realm. Suddenly, without any formal announcements, the much-awaited yak race begins. We watch them in excitement as the untrained yaks give the clumsy handlers a tough time. But their handlers were determined, despite of the yaks' tendency to wander away in their free will. The race was just about a 200-meter gallop to the finish line, but the yaks seemed to have their own agenda. Finally, one of the herders reached the finish line, and he and his yak are greeted with accolades. The winner gets a few pats on his back and bragging rights, which is often marked with a white ceremonial scarf around his neck. Moments after the race had finished, the nomads offer prayers to the mighty Kangchen Gyao and thank the revered snow-capped peak for protecting them and their yaks from evil forces and providing for with green pastures. The nomads then gather to perform traditional songs which tells about their existence and way of life of their nomadic ancestors. The song is accompanied by a traditional dance and a rustic music emanating from a damnye, a Tibetan version of an acoustic guitar played by one of the nomads. After a few ceremonial traditions, we have our lunch generously provided by our guide Aku Zamyang, and soon after we head due south for a stroll where we immerse ourselves within the scenic beauty of Lashar Valley.
So we're at the top of Lasar Valley and our tent is on that side, and this side is the actual Lasar Valley, and this valley, as you can see, there's a river meandering through the valley, and you can also see formation of oxbow lakes.
And the clouds is the holy Kurudungmar lake, and if you pass over there, you are going to reach Lachung. You can see all the guys lying down and taking rest.
Hypnotized by the swirling clouds, intoxicated by the scenery, the harsh sun, and the crisp highland winds, our oxygen-deprived bodies fall into a deep slumber. After nearly 3 hours of appreciation for the beauty of Lashar Valley, we finally head back to the comfort of our tents.
So we're halting tonight in this place, and if you can just see there, you can see the tent. So that is where we were spending the night.
The distance back to the tent didn't seem much, but we hadn't accounted for the oxygen level in the air, and the way back was much difficult than we had anticipated. Upon our return, we find that everyone had left except for our guide, and we took the opportunity to try our hand at the damnye and conjure up some crappy music.
Finally in the tent, and now I'm taking a short nap. And before I do so, I want you to check out the view.
We spent the evening just lazing around with some friendly conversation and admiring the exquisiteness of the expanse that we were now part of. Huddled up in the tiny smoke-filled stone hut, we greedily soaked in the warmth emanating from the fire as we exchanged conversation with the nomads. They entertained us with some local music as one of them struggled to get the fire going, on which our dinner was being cooked. With teary eyes and running nostrils, the obnoxious smoke made us wait for dinner in agony, with only the nomads' soothing music to relieve us while we waited.
It's 7 o'clock and the weather is very foggy right now, and pretty soon it's going to rain, I'm sure. Let's hope for the best. The sun has set and it's time to sleep. So this is my setup for tonight. I hope it won't rain, and I hope it won't be very cold and very windy. I just hope I survive this night. Wow, such a beautiful morning.
A beautiful morning indeed. We were greeted with a magnificent sight of the looming mountains, partially shrouded with clouds, as if we were looking at a skillfully painted masterpiece. Our gracious guide Akuzamyang had prepared some tea and breakfast for us, but we were more interested in the scenic beauty that surrounded us. Couple that with a hot morning tea, it was easily the best breakfast ever. Today we would head back to Thangu via a different route that would complete a circuit of the Lashar Valley. We started at 7 in the morning. We didn't want to go back, but we had to. We said our goodbyes to the Dokpas and started our journey back, with nostalgia already creeping in.
So this concludes our epic journey. So now we are returning to Thangu via another route, and it has been a very humbling stay because everything is so beautiful over here, and the Dokpas were very hospitable, and I hope I can visit again one more time in my lifetime.
The return journey was very long and tiring. Thankfully, there were enough glacial water to quench our thirst as we took frequent breaks along the way.
So we just came to this place, and this is amazing place, right? It's untouched, pristine, clean, and as you can see, the flowers blooming out here.
So halfway of our journey back, we just reached a nomadic hut, and that's the Kalapla Pass, and we'll be staying here for some tea and snacks. See you in the next.
On our way back, the three of us were soon separated from the group as we were the heavy haulers and also the shutterbugs of the lot. But we would soon catch up in the valley below. Eventually we catch up with the group, and after a short drink break and a much needed rest, we were up again and on the move. After 4 hours of traversing through ridges and valleys, we finally made it to Thangu. And after a hearty meal at Akuzamyang's house, we head back home to Gangtok the same day.
Now we just reached Thangu, and we came from those mountains over there, and our vehicle is parked right in front of that green house, and finally this trek is over.
I had embarked on this trek with friends I had made since kindergarten. The already strong friendship developed into a much sturdier bond, for we had entered as boys and came out as men.